How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we are taking a look at a review or a guide for the new map on Wot Console. This is Kalbang. This one is one that I've found a lot of players actually end up performing pretty badly on this map because of, they put themselves in a position where it's just basically not very good for their tank, or they've just put themselves in a position where they can get hit from multiple different directions, and it just doesn't work very well. Now, in terms of where you should be going from this spawn, from the H2 spawn, you come over to this corner here. This is one area of the map that is actually quite useful. Now you see what I'm doing here is actually knocking down a lot of these bushes and a lot of these trees to provide some cover and concealment, which is key. This area of the map you can actually use, and if your team actually spot from the areas over here, which often people will do, if they manage to actually make it round there without getting hit by all of the camping TDs that tend to be over by the 268 version 5, there's often players that will be over there. Whereas when we're over here, you can very rarely get spotted unless people push really aggressively and you manage to actually hit people or fire your gun within the area where this M60 is. If he's pushed up here, often he will actually spot all of the teammates, as you can see him doing right now. He's actually just keep poking the ridge and just constantly lighting up our team for them to get spotted. And what you should note, right, if the enemy team pushes up to this kind of spot where the M60 is and where the Super Conqueror is, what you need to do, if you're in a position like the Gorilla, if you're in a position like the Yag Tiger, or you're like this medium tank, you want to actually hightail it out, you want to move. There's no point in actually trying to contest this area. What you should be doing is getting into this kind of area where the C75 is, and then just putting some rounds into them, or alternatively where I am, or where I was in this position, using the bushes as camouflage, putting as many bushes in between you and the enemy, and just trying to pixel their weak points on top of their turret. Now, since you've kind of lost that area, another area of the map that you can use to push is actually this area over here. What you have to be careful about, though, is if the enemy pushes up to where that M60 is kind of a really superior position. They can put rounds into you with just getting hold down, and it's very difficult for you to actually deal with them. And often you may have to retreat back down this area here, this little street, all the way back, and then move your way around here. Now, if the M60 or the enemy tanks have pushed up like that, then what you should do is actually completely disregard this flank and actually try and push on the other side of the map to be able to, deal some damage. And what you see, what I've done here is you can use this position here, make sure that you're using your concealment to be able to actually use your gun depression, that sort of thing, and just to help out this side, considering that the other side is just basically an area where you're going to get shut down very, very quickly. And you see that one of our teammates actually stayed here, and that was a big misplay by them. Also, if you do come here, be aware that this kind of corner of this house is actually destructible, and often you can get hit from the campers that are up in that corner. So if you're trying to fight people that maybe where this pattern is, if they're trying to use this position here to get shots on any of your teammates, then what can actually happen is you can get hit from where that 432 is over there, where you can see in this area here. So be aware that people can hit in between this little shack here and the corner of this building, and it actually is a really easy hit to actually take. And you should also know that if you are on this side and you are in your TD, that you can use this position over here, put this rock in between you, and you can get some shots over there, so long as people aren't in the middle where that kind of M48 is, where they'll hit you in the side. And that's kind of what you got to be thinking about in these games on Kalbang, is where are the angles that people can hit me. You got to be dynamic, because if players are going to be moving up and players are going to be in this area like the M60 or the E75. This is an area where you definitely don't want to be. You don't want to push through this open field ever, and I mean ever. You should never push through that open field because you know you have people like the Object 268 version 5 that you're never going to outspot. They're stationary, you're on the move, your camo's terrible when you're on the move in a heavy tank, and they're probably going to be undetected for the most part in this area where these two are, and very much you'll have the people that are sat here as well that can farm you in the side from this little hill, and it's never an area that you should be pushing up to unless at the very beginning you make a really aggressive push using a medium or a light tank to get into this position where you can use your gun depression to defend against the opponents on that who may have also pushed up and defend this kind of area here. So that's a really pivotal area of the map to control if you want to defend from this side where we were. Obviously our team didn't do that, and a lot of them actually got taken out from just camping back in this area. I mean, it's viable, but you need to know that this position really only works if you have people in that position just where I showed a second ago. And also if you have people over here that are going to take out anyone that tries to YOLO or just try and spot you. Then this position really only works if the opponents have moved up to this kind of position where you can get hold down, and if you can actually spot the opponents in that camping hill over there. So that's kind of the areas that you want to be looking at. Obviously the middle of the map is an area you want to try and avoid as much as possible. It doesn't always work, but you should really be trying to avoid coming into the middle. This position here can actually work quite well. You've got this ridge that covers you from the left hand side, and this ridge can actually cover you if you're in a fairly low profile medium tank to anyone over to your right. Obviously you'll want to have won this area of the map where this TD is in order to move up into the middle, and you tend to move up actually from this hill over here, which is the one just outside of the spawn, which you saw earlier. So that's kind of the area of the map that you want to try and control to the best of your ability. In terms of pushing up, obviously be aware that you can get hit from people that are camping on the opposite side, and that's kind of an area that I would try and recommend. In terms of the other side, I think what we'll do is we'll actually move over to the other spawn and kind of tell you the options as to where you can go. Although I did want to note that if you are pushing in a heavy tank, then this area of the map could actually be really important to you. What you want to do is actually use the area over here to try and get into a position like this area here. If you hold down, if you've got gun depression as a heavy tank, what you can do is often your team will spot if they're aggressive or if they're spotting the middle from the area where I showed you. And then what you can do is you can use this hill here to be able to get shots on opponents, and then you can progress if you find out that no one has pushed aggressively into the area up here, where often heavy tanks and people will come from the other side to try and put pressure on this side of the map. So be sure to be looking at those kind of areas in this map. Don't ever go through any of the open fields. Certainly don't go through any of the open fields at the beginning of the game, and you really should only be doing that if you know that there's maybe two tanks alive and they're on the other side of the map that are already spotted by your team. So don't be pushing through open fields, because that is just kind of an area that you will just get taken out on this map. And yes, there is some cover, but often some of the areas which you think have cover are actually able to get hit from multiple different directions from all across the map. And so that's one of the key things that you should be thinking when you play on this map. Now moving on to the opposite team, obviously. So the spawn for the opposite team is over here on this kind of standard battle or encounter battle. And these are the kind of the areas where you'll start off. Obviously, one of the key positions if you're in a tank destroyer in this map, then you want to actually push over to this side of the map. You want to use this area that I showed you where people are getting shots onto my team as where I spawned on the opposite side of the map, where you can come into this position here, use the camouflage. What I tend to do though is actually stay back a little bit up against this rock to begin with, so long as my team are pushing down here. And then what I'll do is I'll just wait until I decide whether my team are pushing this flank or whether they're pushing the other one. then I'll get a few early shots into people that maybe didn't get the memo and they started going across the field like that E75 did. Get a few shots in. Then what you'll see is people pushing that area there, and then you can put in a couple of shots in between that little garage and that shack and the corner of the building like I showed you. You can get shots into them from this kind of area here. Make sure that you got this rock in between you and this open field, because that's really key. You need obstacles in between you and the line of sight of all of the enemies, and that's the one way where you actually end up winning the game, or more likely to win the game, I should say. If you're in an aggressive medium and you're fancying actually being quite aggressive in the game, then you can go where that M60 was at the beginning of the game. Didn't work out for him in terms of surviving the battle, but it is a really good position to spot. The one counter to the position is this area up here, like I said, so make sure that you contest this area of the map as quickly as possible, and you want to get behind this rock here, and then it will stop or prevent anyone else from crossing, otherwise, because you'll basically spot them and your team will be able to hit them from that area where I showed the 268 earlier. So that's kind of the key area of this side, and making sure that you don't push in too quickly. You don't want to be sat in the open. You definitely don't want to be in this area here, where on the map where you're in between the two rocks. You want to be making sure that you are snug up against the rock, and then poking out when you need to, pulling back in front of the rock, and then choosing to do stuff from there. It's much better to do that. And obviously there's a few kind of key areas in the map which will just ping here. Obviously the area here is actually really crucial, A2. Then obviously you've got A5 or B5, and B6, this area up here which we've just shown here, making sure that you're behind the rocks, and also you can come down this way and down and use the cover of these rocks to be able to get into position before. I would never really recommend at the beginning of the game to come down this way to actually spot. I'd actually recommend coming down this way, moving up through this area, which actually gives you more cover, and then moving into position here to spot the enemy opponents for your team, and then you'll get some assistance damage in the game. In terms of the other areas from the map on this side, there are a few actual decent positions which you can go into. There's one over here where you can, if you've got gun depression that is, and your team are trying to spot for you, if you use this hill area here, you can get some shots onto anyone that's pushing in the middle, but that's kind of a period of time where you need to be looking in the mid game of the game and making sure that you are just aiming for anyone that's trying to push aggressively, or they're using that hill over there in the same kind of position on the map. There's another area which is actually really, really useful for the other game mode. So when you're playing on standard battle or you're playing on team destruction, you can use this area here. Now, you are kind of prone to being able to get hit by the people that move up into the city, that like city block, which we showed, the little like line of city blocks. You can get shots into there from this position. So you come into this area, you push down a few trees. What you want to do is knock this tree sideways. So when you knock the tree down, it acts as concealment. Similarly, you want to do that with a bamboo as well, because that also acts as foliage and camouflage. And then you can just sit in this position here, take out any opponents that might want to come up. And you can also use this position here, which will get any shots onto people that are making an aggressive play onto this area, which is a big contest for your heavy tanks. Getting some early shots into tanks that come across this field will mean that you've put a bit of pressure on them, so when they meet your heavy tanks, they're on less health than the following tanks that actually move up. Now, obviously, you want to do that at the beginning of the game, and then maybe once you've got the early shots into these people, you might want to move over to here to offer a little bit of protection from that side, and also put some shots into people that may, in the mid-game, try and move into the middle of the map. Otherwise, if you are pushing this flank, what you need to do is stay right over to this side, so come right around over to this side of the building. Then what you want to do is move as quickly as possible round this corner, put this rock in between you. Then what you want to do is either push aggressively. So aggressively push down through here and straight up into this position straight away. Or what you might want to do is just move up to this rock area here and then spot any opponents that are on this hill area straight ahead of you in this area here on the map, which is where some people will sit. Hold down over here on this little ridge line here, and then they can get shots into you if you try and push up into that middle area on this side of the map. So yeah, I think that is kind of the key areas of the map that you want to control, the key positions that seem to work very well in the game, and the key areas that you want to be moving. Obviously, I can't go through every scenario and every different thing, that if one bloke decides he's going to come into the city at the beginning of the game and then he's just going to sit here in this like area here, then yeah, you will obviously have to adapt to the situation, and I can't tell you every single way to beat the enemy team on this map, but this kind of areas will be the key to your success, and if you lose too many of them, then obviously you're going to lose the game overall. So you need to make sure that you win either this area down here from this side, or obviously winning that area over there for this side and that side. And then this area here can be of use, but obviously remember that area over there where the tank destroyers are going to be up by this big hill at the near the spawn. And then middle of the map is kind of a no-go area. You don't really want to go into the middle of the map. Winning that hill over there straight ahead, and then obviously making sure that if you are a tank destroyer, getting into positions like I showed will really help you to get some early damage and help your team out. Just being flexible and actually choosing to move is one of the key things on Kalbang, and obviously the bigger maps mean that you do have to move earlier and quicker than what you might have previously done. So make sure that you do that in this game and on this map, and hopefully you did enjoy this map guide of Kalbang on World of Tanks console. Whether this map comes to PC, I don't know, but hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, remember to subscribe for some more map guides. I'll be doing it for every single new map in the game, and I really do hope you enjoy. Other than that, once again, I hope you liked the video. If you did, remember to actually like the video, and also check out some other content that will be on screen right now. But once again, have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.